just while everyone's getting settled, if you could just make sure your phones are on silent. I'd like to welcome Mayor of Maitland, Councillor Loretta Baker. I'd like to welcome Graham Davidson, Festival Director of If Maitland, Carol Collard, Manager of Gallery and Maitland Libraries, and welcome to you all. My name is Karen Cross, I'm Director of Hunter Writers Centre, and welcome to this wonderful weekend of Independent Festival celebration. I acknowledge the Wanneroo people as the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we gather this evening. I pay my respects to their elders past, present and future, and all Aboriginal elders past, present and future, with a spiritual connection to these lands. Welcome. What a town Maitland is. Just fantastic. I lived 8 years up the valley in the Dundalk Shire, and Maitland was my go-to city for shopping, restaurants, art, music, and certainly books. The Maitland regional libraries were so vital to me. I had a small child, and books were so important. Living on a house in the middle of 750 acres, you needed to read. It was just beautiful, and I was thrilled one day when I went into Maitland City Library to find there was a very early edition of Shrek by William Steig. And yes, I'm sure you've still got that. And I was like, oh, it was originally a book, how stupid am I? And wonderful book, borrowed it, read it, just fantastic. Did you know William Steig was a cartoonist originally, then he was a sculptor, then he was an illustrator, and finally at the age of 61, he decided, I think I might write some children's books. And he wrote from age about 61 up into his 90s. So obviously a very diverse life in the arts. Just listen to this. His brother Erwin was a journalist and a painter. His brother Henry was a saxophonist and a writer. His brother Arthur was a poet and evidently drew like Matisse and Picasso. So I'm thinking, here we are in Maitland, that's someone who's got a book in that local library, and if you could be an artist, and if you think to yourself, what kind of artist will I be? I think this weekend, and William Steig and all those sorts of artists tell us, embrace it all. Just explore all of the creative arts, and eventually you should find your home, like a lot of people here this weekend have. Indie Festival Maitland, alongside Artastic, here is its home, is a beautiful example of combining arts. And in a town like Maitland, you know, not too big but not too small, I think coming together with all those artistic talents is the best thing. Strength in numbers, forget about breaking up into specialties and faculties, let's get together and combine. And I think this weekend with musicians and novelists and puppeteers, surrealists, poets, songwriters, memoirists, all those independent artists coming together, that's what Hunter Writers Centre is thrilled to support. And it's this mix in this town that we're here for, and we want to support that diversity. So we represent the Hunter. We're not a Newcastle-based place, we are funded by the state government to support art and craft and writing and songwriting, all forms of writing and literature across the whole region. And that's why we're here and supporting this. To celebrate the diversity that's in this town, we ourselves started a little project last year, and we hope to see it continue for years to come. And we created a project called Maitland Life Stories. You can find it on Facebook. We just launched it softly this week. And it's a celebration capturing the lives of the people of your town here. So we've started out with capturing the lives of 4 people: Jessie Clark from Phoenix Park Farm, Madison Elliott, who's your youngest Australian gold medalist in Paralympics ever. She lives here in Maitland and has a lane at Maitland swimming pool named after her. She's on that page. And so is Patricia Van Lubeck, whose beautiful artwork is out the front. We've featured her as well. So we'd like to say, if you know anyone of this town that you would like their stories celebrated, please let us know, because this project will continue for years. And it's that sort of diversity and the type of talent that's in this town that we want to support. And just like William Steig's multi-talents, we have another person in this town who has multi-talents. Graham Davidson, very much like William Steig, he is an illustrator, and he has also worked in advertising. He's worked as a printer and a video producer. He's a typesetter, he's been a graphic artist, he's a very talented drawer, and he's also written children's books of late. So recently he decided, what else will I do? I'll run a festival, why not? And tonight is the result, and this weekend is the result. I would like to introduce you to William Steig of Maitland, Graham Davidson.
Thank you very much for that, Karen. And hello people from Maitland and beyond. It feels so surreal to be standing here before you talking about a festival that 12 months ago was a discussion topic over a cup of coffee with the owners of this building we're in now. That was just after that staged the inaugural Artastic Festival. Without thinking too much about the implications, I said, wouldn't it be cool to expand it next year? So it includes a writers' festival as well, turning it into a broader fringe cultural festival. Frank and Patricia agreed that it would be a good idea to pursue, but we immediately realised that the nature of art and writers' festivals are so different that it would require two separate committees. The concept sat on the back burner for a while, until I put my hand up to facilitate the Maitland Library Writers Group run by Hunter Writers Centre. When I sent the director, Karen, interest, run past her the idea of a writers' festival running concurrently with Artastic that celebrates independent writing and publishing in all its forms. When Karen replied by saying, let's talk about it over coffee, I was thinking we'd be looking at the potential for a festival in 2021, run by Hunter Writers Centre that I might play a key role in, perhaps. Instead, Karen said to me, Graham, we're going to go after the funding, and you're going to direct it, and it's going to happen next year. Okay, no pressure there. Keep it small, she said. 47 events across 6 venues later. Oops. But you know what? I'm glad it panned out that way. Seemingly impossible deadlines are what has always driven creative people to do their best work, and I'm no exception in that regard. The festival, though, is more than just one person's vision. It takes a team to pull a festival together, and I'm very proud to be able to say that the small team that's worked to make this happen is filled with some amazing people who have extended themselves in ways that have gone far beyond what one could expect of people volunteering their time and expertise. Some of them simply must be acknowledged here. Controlling the finances is crucial. We're working on a shoestring budget to bring this festival to you, and I'm so pleased that our treasurer, Bebe Simon, is someone with a background in finance. But her biggest input goes far beyond that. She's as close a friend as I've ever had, and has kept me grounded throughout the rollercoaster ride. Michelle Hessen, hey, thank you so much for coming on board. Michelle can't be with us tonight, she's in Melbourne, but she will be coming up halfway through the weekend to join as much of it as she can. She joined the crew in the new year and made the program sing, both in download and print. Her contribution cannot be underestimated, and I very much look forward to what she will contribute to next year's festival. There must be special mention of James Carter, our volunteer coordinator. This is probably the most arduous task in any writers' festival that has a broad scope. We have 47 events happening across 6 venues. That's a huge ask when you're chasing up volunteers. But we've made it in the end, and did so thanks to James's dedication. Kaylee Bradford, you are a star. You came on board so late in the program, but energised our social media and got the message focused and out there. Your enthusiasm is electric, and you have a sound head on your shoulders. I can't begin to tell you what a relief it was when you and Michelle Reedy took over the social media. Which leads us to Michelle Reedy herself. Michelle, you were the first to put your hand up to be on the committee when I came up with the harebrained idea to stage this festival. And you've been integral to getting us to this point. In the early stages, a back injury led you to almost having to pull out. But man, I'm so glad you stuck it out. Once those back issues were under control, you took the reins and drove the preparations forward like a seasoned champion. You brought order and discipline to our meetings and teamed up with Kaylee to drive our social media ahead, making sure that all 47 events received exposure. And Gillian Swain, I remember so clearly the night I first met Gillian, next door in the Rama. It was like she was climbing over the crowd to get to me so she could let me know that she wanted to be a part of the community. And I'm so glad she did. I don't think I've such a dynamic tornado of enthusiasm and activity. A huge proportion of the program that I'm proud to present to you is a result of Gillian. I'd like to thank the team as we've pulled this program together, and I feel so pleased to be able to now call her a friend. We've shared a journey. Neither of us is likely to forget anytime soon. There have been others who have made significant contributions to the committee as well. Mick Tibbett, Nicole Sellers and Rebecca Cowie, to name a few. There's also the amazing team of Amy and Laura from Secret Book Stuff, who have done such an amazing job of setting up the bookshop. I implore everyone to go across next door and check it out before you head off tonight. And we can't forget the owners of the two main speaking venues who have made an enormous contribution that goes beyond what is reasonable to expect. So to Patricia and Frank at Studio Amsterdam, and Lisa and Jeff at Sun Street, on behalf of the committee and the community that is coming out to enjoy this festival, I say thank you. Of course, all festivals rely on the support of their sponsors and backers, and the three women sharing the stage with me have made this festival possible with the generous support they and their institutions have offered. Let's start with current Profs, Director of Hunter Writer Centre. Not only did you underwrite the cost of the writers participating in the festival, but you have mentored me through this journey. I have greatly enjoyed working with you and have nothing but the deepest admiration for your altruistic motives. I feel privileged for having gotten to know you for the amazing person you are as we pull this festival together. Carol Collard, Manager of Galleries and Libraries, you've been supportive from the beginning and have gone way beyond with that support, to the point of opening the staffing the library on Sunday and late into the afternoon on the Saturday. I look forward to developing a closer collaboration between future festivals. Mayor of Maitland, Councillor Loretta Baker, your enthusiastic support of the arts is inspirational. I believe your appreciation of the importance of culture is a major contribution to this town being able to celebrate art and literature this weekend. Maitland City Council's support is the linchpin to the festival's viability, and I look forward to developing that support into the future. But most of all, I'm grateful to everyone who has turned up tonight and those intending to take part in the festival over the weekend. This is your festival. We want you to walk away feeling inspired by the journey of others who have bypassed traditional methods of getting the stories to the public. We want you to feel empowered to tell your story. And I'd like to introduce Carol Collard, Manager of Galleries and Libraries, to come up and make a few words.
Good evening. Let me begin by acknowledging the Wonnarua, the traditional custodians of this land, acknowledging their storytellers and their stories and their continuing connection with the land. And also let me begin by talking briefly about one of my favourite authors. So at the age of 80, Margaret Atwood has never been more prolific or relevant. She's a poet, novelist, literary critic, essayist, inventor, teacher, environmental activist, and of course the bestseller Handmaid's Tale. She says, "A word and a word and a word is power." And indeed this is the name of a recent documentary about Atwood. The success of the television adaptation of The Handmaid's Tale has certainly made her a household name, and all the sequel last year attracted national attention. Nearly 2 million people follow Atwood's early morning tweets. And in an age of uncertainty, my own uncertainty, Atwood's poems and books, which meditate on survival, have become survival tools in themselves, vehicles of meaning. Carl Sagan, author of Cosmos, selling science books of all time, said that writing is perhaps the greatest of human inventions, bringing together people who never knew each other, citizens of distant epochs, connecting us across space and time. And this is the part, this beauty of all literature, says author of. You discover that your longings are universal longings, that you're not lonely and isolated, you belong. So it is a great pleasure to support Maitland's very first Independent Writers' Festival, a community of writers coming together to celebrate writing and reading, and how these two things can deepen and widen and expand our sense of life, our sense of our own humanity, and our connections with each other. A word and a word and a word is indeed powerful. The way words are put together is powerful. So in a regional city that boasts an impressive range of festivals, music, food, multicultural, just to mention a few, comes a bold initiative to share stories and experience. And by its very name, it speaks of possibilities. What if we celebrated writing? What if we celebrated everyone's capacity to write? What if words were our most inexhaustible source of magic and meaning? So Maitland City Library's long-standing Look Who's Talking program, which was established in 2008, is still going strong after 13 years. And we've brought literally hundreds of writers to Maitland. But what we've noticed is there's an increasing thirst for local voices and narratives. We've noticed that there's an increasing number of writers living locally, and those writers are enriching our local community life. We've noticed the many writers seeking ways to share their stories and seeking guidance. And of course, there's a wide spectrum of local publications, from love stories to local history, from cookbooks to children's stories, poetry, plays, biography, and much, much more. So in a time where digital technology is changing writing, and also the processes of editing and publishing, buying and distributing, more and more writers are actually publishing independently. And it's festivals such as this that contribute to a wider engagement of, in the processes of writing and the issues of publishing. It's certainly an heroic thing to write a book and get it published. So there are numerous ways to tell our stories, to have our stories seen and heard. And it's not just through publication, it's also through performance, song and poetry. The people need words, they need meaning, they need stories. Stories of love, hope, survival, wisdom, of experience, of imagination. And Maitland is fast becoming a city of creative people, from public art and poets popping up all over the city, to puppet plays and everything in between. And leading this movement are a group of energetic movers and shakers who are running galleries, organising writers' festivals, and encouraging connection with culture. the IF Indie Writers Festival and the wonderful Artastique initiative are driven by a grassroots demand for cultural activity, an imperative to create, and a deep belief that culture forms the lifeblood of any community. So I acknowledge the amazing energy of Festival Director Graham Davidson and his team of volunteers for bringing this festival together. Also Frank and Patricia Van Lubeck for the wonderful Artastique initiative and all of the artists that are involved with that. I warmly wish you all every success. Thank you.
We now welcome Lord Mayor Councillor Loretta Baker.
Thank you, Karen. I see a lot of happy people here tonight, but you couldn't be happier than I am. This, of course, is a culmination of over 10 years on the back of the launch of the Redevelopment Regional Gallery that have been slowly building an arts and creative movement in Maitland. And after we opened that gallery, we were given $500,000 and were made the City of the Arts for 5 years. And that largely focused on the art gallery and bringing in, big players and putting up some pretty amazing exhibitions and just kicking off that gallery. At the end of that 5 years, we thought about where we would head next. And at the time, we made a decision on council that we would broaden that into the creative arts and try and make Maitland a hub for the arts in every form. And we started sponsoring the arts, giving out grants for the arts, space activation, all on the back of our reactivation of the CBD, the rebuilding of the levy, which all sat within the Central Maitland Structure Plan. So believe it or not, there are a whole lot of plans playing in the visits, including laneway plans and high street plans, but at the crux of it is people. And the arts, of course, is always about the human condition. They say if you want to study the human condition, forget psychology, read English literature. So that's it, and that's it with artists. They tap into community, they tap into people, they tap into how they feel, they tap into how they think. But the other thing they do, and that's why it's so good that this is community driven, is they think about how we can do it together. And I really thank you, Karen, David and Carol, for supporting this first Indie Writers Festival in Maitland, because we had the opening of that gallery, and then 5 years later we looked at the second stage. The gallery was our birth, and we had a midterm thing. This is our coming of age. And I am so proud and so happy that this is here. I'm absolutely delighted that Patricia and Frank pulled up here, that someone found them a building on the high street, that they decided to get out there and talk about the arts and make beautiful art, and that others came along behind them, but also into our side streets. There's suburbs now that I call the Bohemian Quarter, proudly. I thank all of you for being involved. At this stage, council's involvement in this festival is minimal, but Artastic, and I'm so glad that you've combined. Artastic, they did it themselves the first year, and this year we sponsored them. So I say to you in the Writers' Festival, if you think about coming back at this time next year or whenever, our grants, our sponsorship grants, will be up on our webpage in April. So perhaps you might want to have a look at that and apply for sponsorship, because we would love to have you back. I'm really looking forward to the weekend. I'm booked into everything, Gillian's poetry launch. I'm booked into everything you can possibly think of. But I'm asking you all to head up to the gallery also tomorrow afternoon to the launch of our autumn exhibition. because, you know, we're spoiled for choice, but don't forget that. That's critical, and it's where it started. Look, I get letters all the time from people writing to me because they've heard this thing about Maitland. There's a movement, there's a momentum on the arts. I invite them here, have a coffee with them, and take them around, and I tell them all about everything that's happening in Maitland. And, you know, the last person who did that was from Petersham, and she said, oh, a bit ho-hum about coming to Maitland this weekend for the launch of a Friends exhibition in the gallery. She said, but then we went out and we saw Morpeth and we saw Lorne and we saw this. She said, anyway, we're moving up here, we're buying a house. So it's a bit ho-hum, but once you get here, you will discover that it's dynamic and it has a life of its own. And thank you to all of you.
Performed on this stage by Sarah Temple. Thank you. Yes. Okay. Do I read this? Yes. Oh, okay, fine. It's called. I knew that the play was called Impossible Conversations, but there's a little bit to read here. It says, "Welcome to this special preview of Impossible Conversations, a love story in poetry by Sarah Temple and Damien Becker." 3 weeks after Sarah and Damien got engaged, they were told that Damien had only a short time to live unless he received a double lung transplant. True story. Impossible Conversations is a poetry performance that documents the challenges and triumphs of the following years as they navigated an uncertain future. This is a work in development and it's the first public performance we're going to see. Sarah is a performance poet and poetry educator. She won the 2018 Nimbin Performance Poetry World Cup, and has featured us at Sydney Writers Festival and Storyfest. Sarah is the creator of the Slam Craft series of workshops and is director of Poets Out Loud. Damien is the current New South Wales Poetry Slam champion and a community development worker. He was born with cystic fibrosis, commonly known as CF, a genetic condition which impacts all organs in the body, but primarily the lungs. Damien received a double lung transplant from an anonymous deceased donor in 2015. They live with their 10-month-old baby Harriet in Wollongbar, northern New South Wales. Welcome.
So much to Indie Festival Maitland for hosting this sneak preview of the work in development Impossible Conversations. I lie awake this night thinking I will never come to terms with what we've just been through. The trauma that was inflicted upon your body, momentary, precise, life-saving, but too quickly put back together, too perfect to comprehend. My mind bucks and shies away from your image of the cage wide open, as if the white dove might flap wildly free, even in retrospect, if my thoughts go there. You are perfect. You've walked free unscathed from the wreck. When you were beyond my reach, in the operating theatre, in the hands of those superbly skilled and caring men, and I waited with the marshmallow couches and the inane films playing soundlessly, I had a vision of them, of us, humans, practicing such feats upon each other, holding one of our own so precisely, so thoughtfully in relation to death, that the edge between life and no life fragmented and dispersed into a billion tiny actions, weights and measures, into such a myriad of forms that it suddenly seemed impossible to lose you after all. They held you in their steady hands, close to the mystery, and distributed for safekeeping all of your life's energy into various tubing, wires, drains, beeps, a whole forest of machinery puffing and pulsing, your breath transferred to the pumping bellows, heartbeat relocated to the cave-like screen on which other lines ran, gold, blue and green, which only expert minds and practiced fingers could read. The signs of life in this new ecosystem made entirely of human brilliance and compassion. Then, slowly, and with such care, the life was directed back to its original source. Each fleck and pulse was returned to you, undisturbed, perfect, to do with as you would, so that when your eyes opened, it was you who smiled first.
Overall, I've found when you've got CF, it's best not to laugh. Laugh turns into coughs, into hacks, into fits, doubled over. People will laugh, stare, whack you on the back, say, don't cough up a lung, mate, or time to give up the smokes. So I tell my younger self, this child finding out about benign pity is the quietest form of violence. Chew the inside of your mouth instead. Hold it in. Learn to laugh with your eyes. Overall, I found when you've got CF, it's best not to jump at shadows, because everything is a shadow in the dark. Every symptom a stark reminder that every bit of your body is full of spit and abuse. So over time, get used to feeling blood bubbling inside your lungs like you've reached the end of a milkshake. Tell no one. In movies, troubling shots of red spots on handkerchief cue the minor strings, bring the funeral scenes. Such things play on a child's mind. When you've got CF, it's best not to overthink. But then you arrived in a silver Corolla hatchback, perfectly packed like Tetris, everything in boxes neatly stacked. We spent this winter clear afternoon conversing, traversing mountain tracks, just as friends, getting sun-kissed. I told you about my sickness. It hung there in the air between us. It takes enormous trust to ask new love to just accept the death rattle of pill jars, the drone of nebulizer pumps, those halting thumps of my night's breathing, my drumming hummingbird heart, this stop-start life on hold. And when I first told you that our time together may be short and hard, that it would be filled with hospital visits, IV drips, waiting lists, insisted that you consider this, really consider this. Your response was, it makes no difference. I'm in this. We are in this together.
As life gets harder, choices get easier. You give up everything you don't need. Footy coaching, community radio, meeting friends, they all take too much energy. You give up your job, eat nothing but ham and cheese toasties, nuts every night. It's not about taste anymore, but calories and your insurmountable weight gain target. I give up my waist-length hair, cut it short because complaining about it takes too much energy. You go to gym, take your medications, follow your instructions. These are no longer choices. It's not easy, but it is simple.
Hey Siri, what's the survival rate of a double lung transplant? Hey Siri, what's the survival rate without a transplant? There's a professor at the end of my bed, a respiratory specialist, and he's hectoring me, lecturing me contemptuously. And I'm tempted to get up and run from the centre of this crescent of nurses and physios and dietitians and fuck knows who flank round him and stare down at me like they are in mourning and I am already in the hole. And all I can think is of the shrinking diameter of my wrists and why doctors insist on wearing stethoscopes around their necks like big swinging pendulum dicks. And how quickly the time ticks. Hey Siri, what's the tool that hospitals use to cut a chest in half? Hey Siri, show me a video of the Stryker 4107 sternum reciprocating saw. Hey Siri, why does everybody keep preaching that disability is either a misery or an inspirational meme or a punishment for past life misdeeds? Even my counsellor saw me as her spiritual mission, said that all lung conditions are caused by the continual rebirthing of unresolved karmic grief. So it was a relief to shed such superstitions and accept that it's a faulty gene sequence that leads me with such urgency into emergency. When my transplant surgeon says to me that he's just a plumber with a fancier car, and I do laugh heartily, appreciating his honesty, but inside my heart is aching because I've only just got engaged and I want to be there to see how this story begins. Hey Siri, tell me what to do.
I only ever read trashy magazines in hospital waiting rooms. There I take up the ritual of thumbing glossy pages as one might shake hands with a holy fool. I thrill to the dissected daily routine of our Kate while we wait for your x-rays, blood tests and swabs to return, interpreted to the nearest milligram of hope. I revel in the pearlescent glow of faces that sweep whole double-page spreads while they sweep your body head to toe, inside and out, for any little corporeal blemish that might exclude you from the waiting list. And I believe the rumours that Ellen DeGeneres and Mel B flirted so dangerously they nearly broke up their marriages. On that day, the social worker implied with plastic-framed eyes that our relationship might not survive the transplant.
On the phone, I say, if we leave now, we can meet tonight halfway down this lonely coast road, 5.5 hours drive each, you from Sydney, me from South Golden Beach. I say, if we leave now, we can salve this lonely ache and be together. Nesting and the resting of close hands, I say, we can choose to leave now. So we did. Then, standing on the next morning's rise of land, eye contacting the flat blue distant slice in the sky, we let tidal waves fall where whales and torn shadows make light of our secret dilemmas. We sit on the grass, encasing that moment in shatterproof glass by asking each other for a new shared history. Such questions have answers that change everything.
And then, in the deep moisture of a subtropical night in August, we both know it's time for our bodies to meet. As we clean our teeth, I go over my breathless fear that you will be weak and tired, that your skin will be clammy, that you won't be able to reach me. Yours is a body I can't read. It is closed and enclosed. In warnings, in presupposition, in social quarantine, I fear that the story of this night will be that I love you, but love-making is merely endurable, yet I can't keep my hands off you as we slide into sheets and the creek pulls darkness over its sleek, uninhibited program, reaching the sun on the other side of the earth. You are all right there, surging to the surface of your thin limbs. You kiss like wild ginger pushing itself against the moon. Your touch is like depth charges in open ocean, a soundless booming over and over. It is still my depths. Right now, years later, where I try to trace the marks of us with a language horror of sickness, tainted by saviors with other agendas than the pure thundering over my tact as I forget to love you tender, but press your light frame with my full weight as I consume your sweat, your salt and vinegar exudings, and your sweet, tenacious breath. I climb towards you, hand over hand, your DNA around my wrist, making my way along your genetic chains, seeking out a language that is worthy of touching your body. When all our words have been spent on the ways that you are incomplete, when it tells me you are ailing and emaciated, hunched and infected, and my pleasure says, English, you're go home. And all my nerves and organs rise in fury to inscribe this passion upon its absence. As equals, here where you pull away gasping for air, here where infirmity and eros have the same oceanic eyes, where language leaves us to this slow stroking of hushed white curtains blowing up at dawn.
I apologise for breaking the mood with this thin reed throat, this tin whistle note, malforming the shapes of sound, no louder than a whisper. Even the Russians cannot hear me. I apologise for my emaciation, built like a fibro shithouse, my body withered a reed, of something can never cease. I apologise for my lack of presence. The doors of my local shopping mall ignore me, implore me to wave my arms to prove my existence. This body was always a locked safe, until transplant surgeons and a new love broke it open and replaced one life with another, and so here I am, alive on the stage, transforming my shame and rage into pride, and I'm not apologising anymore.
When you first wake up, you will want to hear that you are okay. Then I will hold your hand, seeking out familiar skin beneath swathes of multicoloured lines. I should keep up a faithful narrative of what goes on beyond your view. And I see you. A folded towel should be pressed to your chest immediately when you cough. The pressure will hold the edges of severed sternum together. Gregorian chant, played softly, eases food past your bruised trachea. Once home, you should keep up an afternoon nap, but not for too long. Pushing you forward. Always use the hand sanitizer. Never mistake a slight temperature for something trivial. Somewhere in these actions, perhaps it could be seen, the smallest possible unit of love. By the way, we're cool with photos and videos, if anyone feels the urge. We live close to the sky, No wings to fly, but close enough to feel its side. That's proximity of divinity. Oh, that's okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'll start. We live close to the sky. No wings to fly, but close enough to feel its side. That's the proximity of divinity to you and I. To you and I in this life, but not quite. The breath of the north coast sky gathers itself on the mountainside behind us, flicks clothes from the line, wisps of our hair, then tumbles itself into storm. While we fill brimming cups of our eyes, we live close to the sky. Now there are those who call our contentment some kind of failure, like disembodied gods or stunted visionaries. Truth is, I see no call to invite abundance into my life, and now I unravel these country brokers in my fossil-fueled solitude. I follow them back to the place we met in that the furthest you could climb on splintered lungs and dwindling time, and my limited will to know that I must reach the summit alone. In the intimacy of this truth I fell for you. At least, falling is what they always call it, but surely we were rising in love. And now we live close to the sky, and I fold these landscapes in my mind. Cloud skip, sudden egrets, spraying sky, none of which exists not in this life. But I think it'll be enough for me, if it's enough for you. We live close to the sky, and we tend to a garden of blue.
Beneath that same soul, I'm dancing to the ghost of the man who saved my life. River's wet mouth balanced on a snake arch of bridge that could swallow a ship's tongue. And from its great height had flung generations of the broken-hearted into the spill of ink below. And his ghostly eyes are all aglow because he's leading me on some crazed version of the journey. I can't keep up. In fact, I can't breathe at all. And if a tree falls in the forest, if there's no one there to post it on Instagram, did it ever... Dear daughter of my organ donor, in her letter, your mum tells me that you are 11 now. And I've often wondered how to clear this smoke clouding the ground between us, choking our throats, filling our mouths with the taste of tight fists. For I've left this ground of sorrow fallow for too long, so I am reaching out across this space as great as between two bright suns, or two shining daughters. I wanted to tell you that I too have become a father since my own baby girl was born on this cold April morn just gone. Do you see it now? You, me, and her, all alive because of your dad. And I hope that through your sadness you will one day forgive this tiny joy, these new breaths. I promise that soon we will tell our shared story to a room full of strangers, and his ghost will be on stage with me, breathing life into these lines. The precise weight of guilt that we carry is measured in every day of his that I have claimed and know I am not worthy of. But she is. For baby Harriet.
Before now,
nothing but
scent of fresh lines,
lines of light, clouds streaming onto Cane, cattle bellow, Sallow Creek, then the barest change in air, silent to all but the most attentive brim,
dreams new life into form, colours brighten,
sounds sweeten.
And anything is possible.
Precious one, yes, it has always been now.
So that concludes the launch of the inaugural If Maitland Festival. I'd like to thank you all very much for coming to join us in celebrating this launch. And as I said in my speech, please go next door and have a look at the bookshop. And then once you've found yourself a good book, have a walk along the main street and discover the wonderful bars and cafes and cocktail bars that are along there, and enjoy a little bit of a Friday night in Maitland. Thank you very much for coming.